Hello and welcome to Cyber Focus, your source for international business information. My name is Tim Smith and our guest today is Mr. Wayne Pacelle. Mr. Pacelle is the President and CEO of the Humane Society of the United States, which is the largest and most effective animal protection organization in the United States. As a lifelong animal advocate, he has engineered the passage of more than 1,000 state and federal laws and also negotiated agreements with some of the nation's biggest corporations and trade associations, from the United Egg Producers to McDonald's to SeaWorld. Under his leadership, the Humane Society has more than doubled in size, and Mr. Pacelle has received many accolades for his success. He's also a best-selling author, having published 2 books and written numerous pieces for newspapers, journals, and magazines. In this session, Wayne will share his experiences in nonprofit management and animal protection. Wayne, thanks so much for joining us today.
Great to be with you, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure, absolutely. So you've been with the Humane Society for 23 years, with 12 of those being at its helm. Maybe you could share with us your most significant transformational change that you believe you've driven, and what do you hope to accomplish next?
Well, thank you again for having me on. You know, it's been a real pleasure and a privilege to work in this field where I'm so passionate. I've always abhorred animal cruelty, always wanted to do something about it. You know, I'd say I'm going to answer your question with two examples on accomplishments. One is in 2014, we got South Dakota to become the 50th state in the country to adopt felony level penalties for animal cruelty. So we've remade the legal framework to punish people who perpetrate terrible acts of cruelty. All states have felony level penalties now, including Indiana. Second is we've really begun to change the agriculture industry. We have negotiated agreements with Walmart, McDonald, so many big companies to end the era of extreme confinement of animals, laying hens in battery cages, pigs in these small cages called gestation crates, veal calves in 22-inch wide crates. So it's not all phased in yet, but corporate pledges are going to end this confinement practice in the next 6 or 7 years, and that really makes me happy.
That's great, thanks.
Yeah.
So I also noticed you serve as board member with Humane Society International.
Yes.
What does the Humane Society look like on the global stage?
You know, what we're trying to do is globalize our animal protection goals. You know, we've been trying to criminalize malicious cruelty, crack down on dog fighting and cockfighting, puppy mills, factory farming, and we realize in a global environment, we can't just be in the United States. You could have some of these factory farms, or you could have cockfighting operations move over the border in Mexico, and what does that do except to displace cruelty? It still would happen at the same level and intensity. So we've now organized our operations in 50 countries throughout the world.
Wow,
and we
great.
want to expand into 25 more countries over the next 5 years.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So in 1990, you played a central role in more than 25 successful statewide ballot measure campaigns and have worked for the passage of more than 1,200 new state and local laws. Could you tell us about how you work to build cooperation with the public sector?
Well, you know, private business and industry, because it's such a huge part of our economy, drives so much behavior. It gives us choices. But the public sector is a big part of our lives as well. I mean, the Congress spends $2 trillion a year, state governments spend, local governments spend. So what we've tried to do, in addition to having corporate reforms like our deal with Walmart on cage-free eggs, or SeaWorld to end the breeding of orcas, or to stop Ringling Brothers from using elephants in traveling acts, we've tried to have government standards, to have a federal anti-cruelty statute, to have federal laws against animal fighting, to have federal standards for organics, which means that animals are outside or they're well treated. So we've really moved on a lot of different levels, blending our public policy work with our corporate reform work. And I think it's the combination of all of that that's adding up to big change in our society.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You mentioned in your new book, The Humane Economy, how innovators, enlightened consumers are transforming the lives of animals, that technology is becoming a force for good in the treatment of animals. Could you expand on how this trend is playing out and what it means for U.S. businesses?
Sure. You know, there's one set of arguments that are kind of more morality-based arguments that, you shouldn't do this because it's the wrong thing to do, but if it conflicts with business imperatives, it kind of sets up a polarity between morals and cost and other economic considerations. When you can align your morality with good economics, that's a fabulous outcome. So just to take a very practical example, Ringling Brothers. Ringling Brothers has used elephants in the circus for 145 years. They realized that millennials and other young people didn't want to go see animal acts because they were concerned about the cruelty, the backstory. So they're kind of now moving toward acrobatics and other forms of entertainment. So it's good for animals, it's good for the company. It's positioning the company for success in the future. And that's really the thesis of my book, The Humane Economy, that animal protection and adhering to animal protection values is not a sacrifice. It's actually a business opportunity. When you align your business practices with what people believe, you've got an opportunity to reach everyone. If you're doing something that 20 or 30% of the people think is terrible, you're going to have protests, you're going to have boycotts, you're going to have a lot of people that are not going to patronize your business. But if you can get to that sweet spot where you're conducting your business operations that are attendant to the values of your consumer base, that's a win for everybody.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
So many consider you a leader as a nonprofit manager. What advice do you have for other nonprofit managers and those entering the field to be successful?
You know, I like to think of nonprofits as kind of for-purpose corporations. We're really trying to do something good, provide some service or drive a certain set of ideas in our country. But, a nonprofit or for-purpose organization needs to run by business principles. I mean, we balance budgets and we have, HR standards and we have all of the things that any business does. We just have a bit of a different revenue generation model, and we don't have shareholders, we have donors and other supporters. But I really take the business side of the operation very seriously, and I think it's a solemn responsibility to lead the organization, and I want it to function efficiently. I want to hire the best staff. I want to conduct our programs with efficiency. And it's been a remarkable 12 years for me, a real privilege to work with so many great people. We've got millions of supporters all over the country. And I think that showing our impact is the most important thing. That when we can change the way agriculture is conducted for the better, it's good for farmers, good for consumers, good for animals. When we can change the entertainment industry and kind of get wild animals out of these acts, everyone benefits. And it also shows our supporters, the American public, that this sort of thinking about animals is winning. And that causes people to support the organization, which is kind of a positive feedback system.
Absolutely. Wayne, thank you so much for coming in to speak with us today.
Tim, thanks so much. Glad to be with you.
That's all for this edition of Cyber Focus. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any comments or suggestions for future topics, please let us know at CIBER, that's CIBER, @indiana.edu.